School sexually harassing young girls. A series of videos posted by Rebel Media shows the results of Canada's immigration policy, especially with regard to migrants from Syria. According to the report, Syrian migrant men, some in their 20s with full beards, have been dumped into a New Brunswick high school. And the results are pretty much what you'd expect. Rebel Media said, Syrian migrant men in their 20s, some with full beards, are being dumped into classrooms at Fredericton High School, next to Canadian schoolgirls as young as 14. And the results are what you'd expect. Sexual harassment, bullying, picking on the Jewish kids, threatening and swearing at teachers, talking about terrorist weapons, like rocket-propelled grenades, demanding that men and women be separated, Sharia style, refusing to speak English. It goes on and on. I know this, because we received a confidential tip from a parent, who couldn't get anyone in New Brunswick to help. The media, the police, the politicians, everybody is petrified of being called racist for even mentioning the disaster that has come from putting unassimilated Muslim migrant men right into our schools. Everyone's afraid to talk about what was happening at Fredericton High except us. So we filed an access to information request to the school. And they sent us over 2,700 documents covering every aspect of the fiasco. Watch the videos to find out what we found.
I never intended on becoming the voice for North American children, victimized by our government's sloppy Syrian migrant policies. But regrettably, that is exactly what it's come to. Viewers might remember my trip to Halifax earlier this year. Interviews with Nova Scotia parents, teachers, and elementary school students at Chebucto Heights revealed a school-sanctioned cover-up. Muslim migrant boys in a Canadian school slapping, choking, and threatening young schoolgirls almost daily. A principal unwilling to discipline the delinquents, and a school board that dismissed the allegations as a byproduct of bigotry. Well, after we ran that report right here on the Rebel.media, we launched an e-tip line, tips at the Rebel.media, where we encouraged anyone whose child was being bullied without recourse to contact us so we could get to the bottom of it. One of the emails we received included a Facebook post. That post was made by a parent whose child goes to Fredericton High School in New Brunswick, Canada. The parent claims that school is bringing in, quote, an interesting mix of migrant students ranging from 11 to 22 years of age. The parent claimed that some of the adult men in that school had full beards and were trying to hit on 14 to 15-year-old female classmates. But after being brushed off, these adult migrant men took to successfully hitting on the girls in the years below. The parents said that the Canadian boys at Fredericton High School have become frustrated, but are too scared to speak up because, quote, they know how dangerous the "you're a racist" label will be for the rest of their lives. So we here at The Rebel followed up. We filed a Freedom of Information request with the school. We asked for any information regarding problems or issues surrounding the integration of Syrian migrant students at Fredericton High School. Well, we finally got some answers. Some 2,700 documents were sent our way, and we've been promised yet another batch sometime soon. What we found inside those documents is scandalous, if not fearfully expected. Emails between teachers reveal 20-year-old migrant men in classrooms with 14-year-old girls, aggressively challenging teachers and other students, particularly the girls. Migrant men using vulgar, sexual language in Arabic in front of the girls in their classroom. The results of an opinion survey given to the Syrian migrants, in which shy of 20% said that marital rape and forced abortions are okay. Emails between staff complaining about at least one refugee who, when asked about his hobbies, said he liked RPGs, making loud noises and gestures as he answered. Also in those emails, a migrant desire for gendered apartheid prayer rooms and school buses, as young migrant girls divulged to teachers fears of their own brothers and their fathers. Teachers establishing lockdown procedures for the school's refugee assessment classroom because of safety concerns for the person conducting those interviews. Anti-Semitic bullying, migrants targeting their Jewish peers. Now, an appropriate examination of all the red flags we found in those 2,700 pages would be impossible to do in just one video clip. That is why I'll be releasing one video every day until my show, On the Hunt, airs this Thursday night with the full report. In these updates, I'll wade deeper into Fredericton High School's dirty little secrets, an imported war on women, budding radicals in the classroom, and how political correctness is preventing a solution to that school's Syrian migrant mayhem. It's a report I wish I didn't have to file, but someone has to tell the other side of the story.
Thanks for watching. Click here to never miss a Rebel update. Want even more of the Rebel? Well, click here to become a premium member.
A Rebel Media investigation now, following up on a story we broke for you on Monday. A 2,700-page document dump from Fredericton High School in New Brunswick, Canada. The Rebel filed our access to information request after a tip from one parent who reported migrant students, adult men really, in their 20s, hitting on 14-year-old girls and intimidating young Canadian boys in the classroom. Now, bullying in high schools is a problem for too many of our youths, while politicians on both sides of the 49th have done their fair share of virtue signaling on the topic. So I wonder what color of t-shirt they'll ask us to don to signify our solidarity against a new type of bullying on campus, this one with a radical flair. According to numerous email exchanges between teachers at Fredericton High, migrant students are becoming risks in the classroom, bullying and intimidating the others. And they're not just picking on students their own size, but causing abundant grief for the younger students. But I get it. Roughhousing, particularly between boys, isn't exactly shocking, even if one's in his 20s and the other in his tweens. All right, so what do you say about this? The Syrian refugee students threatening a Canadian boy for simply brushing against a Syrian girl's back with his own, while the two were simply seated back to back. Seriously, even after the Canadian boy apologized, Syrian students became aggressive. One even kicked the Canadian boy, which led this teacher to say that she's, quote, worried about retribution towards the Canadian student in the days to come. And then this, 19 and 20-year-old migrant students making racist comments to their non-Syrian classmates, again, picking on the younger kids even more than the others. And then, is this the sort of thing that's common on campuses these days? I don't know. Migrant students counting RPGs among their favorite hobbies and pastimes as teachers are reduced to telling them, no, Sonny, we don't do that here in Canada. Perhaps one of the most shocking emails that I came across, though, was inside this note, postmarked on March 22nd. It reads, quote, today's events in Europe may have a trickle factor in our wing for students of a certain culture. There's a lot of energy or excitement with the students that we should be mindful of today. But what happened in Europe on March 22nd of this year? Oh, that's right. The Brussels bombings. 2 at the airports and 1 at the metro station, all of which claimed the lives of 32 innocents and injured some 300 more. So teachers are told to be mindful of students of a certain culture who are excited and energetic about a terrorist attack? Huh. Folks, what I'm sharing with you right now is not conjecture, not speculation or mere allegations from people far away from the supposed going-ons. No, these are just the facts, agreed upon and reiterated over 2,700 pages of correspondence between school staff, the eyewitnesses to each of these sad scenarios. And what I've shown you today is just a glimpse into the astounding world revealed to us in this pile of documents that we've received just so far. I hope you'll join me this Thursday night for a full report on Sharia creep in Canada's Fredericton High School. And stay tuned for another update on this file tomorrow, right here at therebel.media. Like what you just saw? Click here and become a member. Watch full episodes of my show On the Hunt at therebel.media. Our investigation into Syrian migrant mayhem at one Canadian school continues. After filing a Freedom of Information request with Fredericton High School in New Brunswick, 2,700 pages of emails between school staff paints a picture of grown migrant men admitted as high school students, harassing their 14 and 15-year-old female peers in a system that doesn't know where to draw the line. But before I wade into more details of what we uncovered, an update. It's now been 3 days since our story first broke, and not a single mainstream news organization has picked it up. And here's the thing. After we filed the FOI, every last document we have access to is now public domain. We've even posted some of the relevant documents within my reports right here on our website. However, editorial boards and individual reporters have decided not to follow up. The way I see it, it's either because they don't believe this is happening in their own backyard, or they're too afraid to confirm that, in fact, something is happening. and nothing's being done about it, which is a travesty considering, according to these indisputable documents, there is an importation of Sharia right here in Canadian schools. See, at Fredericton High School, not just anyone can greet Syrian migrants. It has to be someone of the same gender. This female teacher couldn't make it to welcome two Syrian migrant girls, but says she was supposed to because she, quote, has the required gender. So she solicits another female teacher to be present when the girls arrive. What's more, teachers at this Canadian school went out of their way, devising floor plans for a prayer room. They wanted to ensure enough dividers were provided in their inclusive space to make sure people of opposite genders didn't catch a glimpse of each other while praying. In their emails between themselves, teachers admit the Syrian students have, quote, cultural confusion over gender roles. I suppose that's why one teacher emailed another this URL. Now, I plugged this website into my search bar, and this is what I found. A piece titled Inside the European Classes Teaching Refugees to Respect Women. The subheading? In one part of the class, migrants are shown an image of a woman sitting provocatively in a short skirt and told it isn't an invitation for sex. Now, perhaps it's just common sense for Canadians like myself to acknowledge a seated woman in a skirt isn't an invitation for sex, but who are we to judge? These adult male migrants have been accepted into this high school, presumably to learn our curriculum and our culture. There's a legitimate argument that it's the school's role to teach them our Western way of life. But there's only one problem. What if they simply don't want to learn? And when it comes to the male migrants at Fredericton High School, a refusal to Canadianize seems to be an all too common theme there. Even when it comes to something as basic as learning the English language. Scores of emails between teachers indicate an unwillingness of the migrants to even attempt to speak English. Some even going as far as pressuring others to stop speaking English to the teachers when they dare to do so. Other migrants still interrupt the teachers, overpowering them by speaking to the whole class in Arabic, forcing younger, non-Syrian students to leave the classroom so they can learn in peace. I think I speak for a great deal of Canadians when I say I am all for helping out people who are in need, people who have high hopes for a better life. But how are we expected to work with a group of individuals who are intent on working against us? More to come in tomorrow's update, and be sure to tune into my show this Thursday night with a full report right here at therebel.media. Like what you just saw? Click here and become a member. Watch full episodes of my show On the Hunt at therebel.media. Our final update now on a story out of Fredericton High School in New Brunswick, Canada, where a 2,700-page document obtained by an Access to Information request revealed adult migrant men attending classes, harassing their younger Canadian peers while making demands for gender segregation, halal foods, some of them even demonstrating excitement over the bombings in Brussels earlier this year. Now, every day this week, we've shown you the glaring problems stemming from poor integration of Syrian migrants in just one Canadian high school. So the question becomes, how did this happen? And what are the authorities doing about it? Well, the answer to the first question, how did this happen, became painfully clear while combing through the email transactions between teachers from the school. They were perfectly unprepared. One note from the school's department head for international students depicts an utter lack of resources where no supports are in place beyond an initial interview in a province where there is no official program for students who wish to learn English as a second language. She complains of a lack of personnel with designated roles, no translator-interpreters, for example, to help students adjust to a whole new set of cultural and social norms. So our federal government dumps tens of thousands of Syrian refugees into Canada with no plan to integrate them into our schools. I mean, it's no wonder the school's vice principal wrote to the member of parliament responsible for the rioting of Fredericton, describing several sleepless nights because of the migrant mayhem within her school's walls. She says the school's problems are so severe, so important, she wants the details passed along to Prime Minister Justin Trudeau himself, because as it stands, the school isn't coming up with viable solutions on its own. In fact, emails between teachers show there are no consequences for Syrian migrants wreaking havoc in the classroom. Why? Because the students don't speak English and there aren't enough translators to discipline the misbehaving migrant men. However, the school seems more interested in controlling the behavior of the Canadian kids than their migrant peers. Staff emails encourage teachers at the school to listen to student conversations in the hallways and ensure that they're not referring to the Syrian refugees as refugees. At FHS, one email reads, "We feel it's important to refer to all groups as, quote, newcomers in order to promote a welcoming school." And in the event the Syrian migrants didn't feel welcome enough with a student drive for school supplies, again, it was reiterated that the messaging focused on, quote, newcomers, not refugees. Priorities, eh? Well, we here at The Rebel aren't afraid to admit our own priorities, which include the safety and well-being of our nation's children, our little girls, and the boys who wish to defend them without fear of being labeled a racist. Tonight, I hope you'll join me as I expose what's really going on behind the walls of one Canadian high school where the honeymoon with their migrant male students is quickly coming to an end. Watch On the Hunt with me, Faith Goldie, tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern, right here at therebel.media. Like what you just saw? Click here and become a member. Watch full episodes of my show On the Hunt at therebel.media.
Syrian migrants placed in Canadian high schools sexually harassing young girls. A series of videos posted by Rebel Media shows the results of Canada's immigration policy, especially with regard to migrants from Syria. According to the report, Syrian migrant men, some in their 20s with full beards, have been dumped into a New Brunswick high school. And the results are pretty much what you'd expect. Rebel Media said, Syrian migrant men in their 20s, some with full beards, are being dumped into classrooms at Fredericton High School, next to Canadian schoolgirls as young as 14. And the results are what you'd expect. Sexual harassment, bullying, picking on the Jewish kids, threatening and swearing at teachers, talking about terrorist weapons, like rocket-propelled grenades, demanding that men and women be separated, Sharia style, refusing to speak English. It goes on and on. I know this, because we received a confidential tip from a parent, who couldn't get anyone in New Brunswick to help. The media, the police, the politicians, everybody is petrified of being called racist for even mentioning the disaster that has come from putting unassimilated Muslim migrant men right into our schools. Everyone's afraid to talk about what was happening at Fredericton High except us. So we filed an access to information request to the school. And they sent us over 2,700 documents covering every aspect of the fiasco. Watch the videos to find out what we found.
I never intended on becoming the voice for North American children victimized by our government's sloppy Syrian migrant policies. But regrettably, that is exactly what it's come to. Viewers might remember my trip to Halifax earlier this year. Interviews with Nova Scotia parents, teachers, and elementary school students at Shabukdo Heights revealed a school-sanctioned cover-up. Muslim migrant boys in a Canadian school slapping, choking, and threatening young schoolgirls almost daily. A principal unwilling to discipline the delinquents, and a school